After the defeat of the Catholics by King William, Irish Catholicism entered a dark age. The Protestants set about buttressing their power with a series of laws directed at all other religious groups, including the Presbyterians. But their main impact was upon the Irish Catholic community.
An act for the better securing the government by disarming papists.
Catholics were not allowed to vote, nor become members of Parliament. They were banned from holding public office. They could not carry arms.
An act to prevent popish priests from coming into this kingdom.
The Catholic priesthood was suppressed. Exiled priests could be hanged, drawn, and quartered if they returned.
An act to prevent the further growth of popery.
Catholics were prohibited from buying land, taking mortgages on it, or leasing it for more than 31 years. The laws of inheritance were changed, favoring Protestants at the expense of Catholics. In 1640, over 50% of the land of Ireland had been owned by Catholics. By the mid-18th century, they owned only 7%. Moreover, religious worship for the Catholic majority was outlawed. The Mass sometimes had to be said in the open air, in wild, out-of-the-way spots called Mass rocks, away from the watchful eyes of the authorities.
The priest was on the run then, and the people wanted the Mass, and it was said mostly in hidden glens and valleys. And when the priest was saying Mass, there was always people on guard. They were looking out for the soldiers coming to arrest the priest if they could find him, and the people that would be attending the Mass. Mass was banned.
There was a price of £5 on the head of a priest, and £5 on the head of a wolf, and £5 on the head of a teacher.
The intention of the penal code was to create, in effect, a permanent subject condition for the Catholics of Ireland, to keep the Catholics of Ireland in a position of permanent second-class citizenship, as it were.
As the century progressed, the penal laws fell into abeyance. But it was the effect they had on people that was significant, the myth rather than the reality that mattered.
The penal laws are really a psychological weapon to humiliate and degrade and demoralize the Irish Catholic majority so that they would be psychologically incapable of rebelling again.
Three-quarters of Ireland was owned by English or Anglo-Irish families whose country mansions dominated the landscape. But many of the landlords lived abroad, and rents and revenues were constantly leaving Ireland for England. The profit that England drew from Ireland was vast. Roughly speaking, Ireland was as valuable to England in the mid-18th century as North Sea oil and gas is to the British economy today. All European countries at this time treated their colonies as investments to be exploited. Ireland was no exception.
You've got to think of Ireland as the first English empire, anyway, as the first important, profitable colony that was, of course, improving England's economic situation in all sorts of ways, creating surplus capital for investment of every kind.
Not only the peasantry, but also the business classes suffered from this exploitation. They were annoyed by restrictive trade legislation favouring England's economy at the cost of Ireland's. Presbyterians, as well as Catholics, suffered disabilities under the penal laws. Resentment festered and erupted in a rising in 1798, which was viciously put down by Britain. Despite French help, the rising was a fiasco. Leaderless and uncoordinated, it degenerated into a sectarian fury. The ferocity with which it was put down by the British Army left a lasting impression. Tens of thousands of Irishmen were killed by the security forces. But Republicans too celebrate their heroes and martyrs. The man who inspired the 1798 Rising is buried here. Today he's revered as the founder of Irish republicanism. His name was Theobald Wolfe Tone. His words have inspired many Irish nationalists.
From my earliest youth, I have regarded the connection between Ireland and England as the curse of the Irish nation, and felt that while it lasted, this country could never be free or happy.
Every year, Republicans march to his grave. These marches and the speeches accompanying them have become affirmations of Irish republicanism.
Friends, I am very proud to be speaking to you here today at the grave of Theobald Wolfe Tone, in this, the 10th year of our phase of the struggle. I would like to take this opportunity.
For Republican separatists, 1798 is the crucial point of departure, in that for all its internal contradictions, for all of the various problems that one had in explaining how things happened, it did see a rebellion in which Catholics and Protestants were together in arms against a British government, in which the right of Ireland to a separate political existence and to a republic was asserted in arms by Catholics and by Protestants, north and south.
The British government's response was radical and decisive. Ireland was to be made a part of Britain. To Westminster, the 1798 Rising was a reminder of Irish treachery. Union of Ireland and Britain would finally ensure Irish compliance. Britain and Ireland were fused into what was now to be called the United Kingdom. The streets of Dublin came to look like those of London.